See this as a not just an opportunity but an honor that you have, that you have this ability to go and do this thing. Like, you're about to embark upon a quest that is going to be a fabulous quest, right? It's going to be full of adventure and heartbreak and trials, but that's what makes it so great, just like a great movie or a great book.
John's been my business coach for the last 2.5 years and has worked with me on building out the business back end of my video agency. Little did I know that coaching with him would entail life far more than it did my company. And in this conversation, we discuss what it means to go through a pickup phase, how to build your body, and above all else, unleash the artist within. Welcome to episode 20. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Magnesium Breakthrough from Bioptimizers. Magnesium is a mineral that's actually deficient in up to 80% of Americans. At least that's what I read in this book called Sleep Smarter. And I've been taking magnesium, this magnesium product from Bioptimizers, for the last 2 years. It's 2 tablets every single night. One could make the argument that the best results of your life come from prioritizing great sleep. Bioptimizer's Black Friday mega sale is happening right now and lasting throughout the entire month of November. The biggest discount you can get and amazing gifts with purchases are available only on my page, bioptimizers.com/Captain Sinbad. This is your golden opportunity to stock up and reap all of the amazing benefits it has to offer. You won't find a better deal anywhere else, even on Amazon.
Basically, there's 3 main insecurities that every man has to face. The first one is physical violence. So he has to be able to go into war, or, you watch a movie on TV and you're like, I don't know if I could fight, if I would run away and be a coward, right? If I had to. So that. The second one I would say is financial. Second one is to be able to be a self-made man, right? Can I actually, be a man who makes his own money? And I don't mean getting a paycheck, because you can get a high paying job, but it's like being a rat in a cage. Like, they're feeding you. That's how I view that. Yeah, you're working for it, but they're still feeding you. Like, you know that you're owned by someone. The third one is the woman, is to, and it's not just to hook up with a girl. It's not just to have sex. It's not just to have a girl like you or to get into a relationship. It's for you to, like, go out into the wild, see a wild woman, go and talk to that woman, seduce her, get her to then sleep with you. Because if you feel like you can't do that as a man, then you feel that insecurity. It's all 3 of those things. You feel some kind of insecurity because you feel like you should be able to do that. Like, if a woman just comes up to you and starts liking you, then it's like you didn't earn that thing. Like, it doesn't make you feel like a man, because there, like, every single one of those 3 things, there's a fear in it. Right? It's like you're afraid of violence. You're afraid of your mortality. You're afraid of being out on your own and trying to make your own money. You're afraid of rejection, that the girl isn't going to like you, that she's going to reject you in some way, you're not good enough for her.
I see.
Because it's a fear, because it's like a deep-seated fear, right? We were talking about, you're willing to jump out of an airplane, right? Which is fucking crazy, right? But it's way more scary to go and talk to this girl that you don't know.
How did you approach these phases of your life? Which order did you master things?
For me, it really was, I would say, first was the financial side of things, right? That might even be the easiest thing, I think. For some people, it's scary, but hey, what's the worst that could happen if you don't make it? As your ego takes a blow, sure, financially, but I built my own business. I got out on my own. In fact, I even when I was supporting myself for a long time, I would not call myself an entrepreneur. I was like, I'm not an entrepreneur, right? It's like, 3 years into it, finally I was like, okay, you're an entrepreneur. Now you've proven yourself enough. You're not getting a paycheck from someone else. Even when I was getting royalty payments on books and stuff, I was like, oh, well, someone else published my book, so that's where the money's coming from, right? Even though that, that's totally independent. But once I was fully, like, people are paying me money to get my wisdom, to get what I'm providing, then I felt that. And then the second one I tackled was the physical violence. I went into Muay Thai, got into combat situations, and that one I felt like is easy because you just sign up. If you just sign up for Muay Thai and you just sign up to to spar, or to get into a fight, like, you're going to go through that, right? But the third one, that one was a tough one.
It was a tough one.
I lied to myself about it for a long time. I remember when I had first encountered this and was first going to overcome this. This was when I was well into my 30s. And I was running on the beach one day, and I was telling other people how to pick up girls, right? But I wasn't. It was not something that I had done, really, right? And so I was running on the beach, and I saw these 3 girls sitting on the beach. And after the run, I was like, I really want to go and talk to one of these girls. And I had this discussion in my head. I was like, John, like if you're so confident, like you say you are, you should be able to go and do this. And I was like, yeah, I'm kind of busy. I got to get home. Like, I just don't feel like it right now. And I was like, bullshit, man. Yeah. This is the bullshit excuse that anyone would say. Like, even if you don't feel like it, even if you don't have time, it'll literally take you 1 minute to go over there. So there's only one of 2 possible realities. One of them is you're full of shit, right? And you're deceiving yourself, or you got the balls to do it, and that's it. Right. And so I was like, fuck, I have to do this now. Right. Because I had rationalized it to the point in my head where I knew that this was a choice. Like, either I could pussy out if I was going to, but then I would have to truly admit that I was afraid to talk to women, and that was it. And so I went up to the girls, and went up to the first girl, and I was like, hey, I think I know you from somewhere.
Nice.
Right.
Like
and
that.
she's like, oh, whatever. She was nice or whatever. And then I didn't really make anything happen, but I had done it.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And that was like one of the greatest triumphs in my life. And, after that, obviously I went and did a lot of pickup and even taught people how to do pickup. But that was the point of overcoming. In fact, on that same day afterwards, I was so elated that I went back with my cell phone and I filmed a YouTube video, and I was like, and I talked to the girls and everything about that. But yeah, that was the moment of that, transition.
Yeah. So do you think you went about things with the right order? Do you think money is the first domain to master? Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. Because money takes the longest because of compounding, right? So if you go and start a business today, it's going to take you 5 years, and you're going to have to work your ass off in order to get there, right? So it's going to take a while for you to progress in that area, and it requires compounding, right? Especially if you think about long-term investments and things like that, investing in real estate, it takes a while for you to really be successful in that area. So you have to start first, and also you don't lose anything by not, or by, I guess in the other areas, you don't lose anything by not starting first. In real estate or in investing in money, whatever it is, you lose something if you lose time. If you wait later to become good with women or to tackle the fitness or the violence, the insecurity along that, you don't lose anything. So I think that makes the most sense. And then second is to get your body in shape, right? I mean, we can kind of transition these fears or insecurities into also personal development, like the positive side of it, which is next you should work on your body, right? Because for a couple of reasons. One of them is that takes the second longest. You can transform your body in 2 years. Yeah. You can go from the worst to the peak in 2 years if you're trained really, really hard. But realistically, you're not going to do that because you're going to need to develop the discipline. You're going to have to learn how to train right and how to eat right and go through that trial and error. But that's going to take you some time. And then it'll also help you with your confidence, right? Because the thing is, like, women should be the last one, because if you have the money and not just the money, but the confidence that comes from that, right? The knowing that you're a self-made man, and you have the physique, because not just because you look good, but because you know that you built that, right? That's the thing is, like, when I went and approached women, I was like, I'm the shit. Like, not because I have money and not because I look good. It's because I am the man who went through those things in order to get here. And that's why I am way above the level that you are. And I can talk to you, in this way, right? So if you establish those things first, then you go after women. It makes the most sense for sure.
I actually have totally followed this path as well. I just didn't realize it until this episode. But when I was first starting to get into fitness, which was at the age of 28 for me, I immediately got this thing like, why have I not been doing this more? Right. I wish I would have started this sooner. Right. At that point, I was working on YouTube and I was working on my main career job, and I wasn't trying to slack on either, actually. So I would just film all the time in fact, in many of my lifestyle challenge videos from that era, I would just be showing myself going through like some corporate meeting and working until 5.
Yeah.
And then I say to the camera, like, okay, that was a full day of working, but I love YouTube. And so I just have to remind myself, like, it's going to be fun to go out tonight and shoot. But that was just another 4 hours of work, actually.
Right.
But had I not done, I think, 2 years like that, at least the base of my financial career, I think, would not have been, it would not have been as good as it is now, potentially.
Right.
And then as a consequence of that, though, I didn't pay my body any mind, honestly. Like, I just was working. I was ordering takeout a decent amount. I could have maybe done it a little bit smarter, but based off my knowledge at the time, I would just kind of like get up and run 2 miles in the morning once in a while, or like do lat pull down. But there was no progression plan or anything like that. Really, like last December, I was worried I was just like autistic, and no one was telling me because I couldn't get I couldn't get a girl to go on a second date with me, mid-looking girl.
Right,
I couldn't get her to go out with me a second time.
It comes down to the intent. Like most guys come across non-threatening, non-sexual to women, and women are turned off by that. They immediately get the friend zone vibe and put you in the friend zone, and they like you. They're like, oh, this is a cool guy, but they don't feel turned on, right? And it's like, how do you become that guy? What is that transition? And I think that's where the pickup comes in, is because, it's hard unless you've had to turn that on. But in a pickup environment where you are going out and talking to random girls, especially a nightclub or a bar or something like that, like you don't have very long to impress them or to get their attention or to generate attraction. So you have got to learn how to be that killer, right? And that's what, what it hones it in, because, like I said, if I, back in the day, I'm married now, so, but, back in the day before I was, married to my wife now, I mean, if I matched with a girl on Hinge or Tinder or whatever, I'm closing that deal like within an hour or two of meeting her. Not just that night, but like quick, right? Because that's just the instinct. That's just what I expect. And so it's like when you do a lot of pickup, I think what you get to a point is that you have to compress so much in such a short period of time, right? If you've got a whole date with a woman, to me, it's like, oh, well, that's so super easy. You've got her isolated. She's just in front of you. In order to seduce her, that's so simple. But it's because of the pickup, right? It's because if you've had to go out there and go to a nightclub by yourself and just go and talk to a girl and from a girl that you don't even know at all, now get her to go home with you that night, then it seems a lot easier when you go out on an actual date with the girl. So I think that is the element that is missing. Yeah.
Do you think this exploration, though, like it's like too much sexual liberation, and it's like a bad, it's like a non-Christian way of being? Because I sort of I'm just using that as a reference, Christian, Hindu, whatever,
for morality,
for morality,
yeah.
Because doesn't this behavior lead to the destruction of societies? Like the fall of Rome is because everyone was just fucking each other too much. Like,
well, okay. So I coach both men and women, right? And it's fun. It's so many people can't even get this into their head, right? And what I tell guys is it's two opposing forces, right? So I'm teaching guys how to get laid on the first night as quickly as possible with the girl. And I don't see anything wrong with, that's what their imperative is. That's what a guy's trying to do. But if I'm coaching a woman, I'm telling her the exact opposite. I'm telling her, wait, I don't care how much you want to fuck this guy, whatever, like wait, like make him wait, make him invest in you so that if you want him to stick around and to build some kind of long-term commitment, you have to make him wait. So the thing is, it's a game. It's a dance. It's a dance we're playing, right? It's not a right and it's a wrong. Like people are constantly putting the sexes against each other as a right or wrong. It's not. It's the masculine drive is for the immediate, for the now, to dominate, to overpower, to have sex now. Let's have sex, right? That's the masculine. The feminine is for intimacy and relationship and connection and hey, let's build something on this. And so they most women, if you ask a woman, women can have access to guys. They can have sex with guys anytime that they want, right? So and think about it. And some women, I think they get on a dating app, right? And they realize this. They're like, oh, I can fuck hot guys. And so maybe they do that for a little bit. And then they're like, that's not really fulfilling. because it's so easy for them, right? It's like there's no challenge in that, and there's nothing that they're really building. So what happens is most women, and I think it's just instinctual anyway, is they don't want to just have a bunch of sex with a lot of guys. Most men would, right? For example, if you go out on a date, right, you're probably thinking as a man, like, I hope that tonight goes good. So it's
Yeah.
you're hoping it ends, in sex, right? But women don't ever think that. They don't ever go on a date with a guy, or hardly ever, and think, I hope this ends in sex. Because if they want it to end in sex, it'll end in sex, right? So what they're thinking is, I hope that this guy is the one so I can stop fucking around and dating all these jokers. That's what their hope is on a date. They're like, I hope that this guy is not a loser like all these other guys, and it's just like that I can stop doing this dating thing because I hate it. That's the experience of most women, right? So it's two opposing forces that are working against each other. But ultimately, the reason why a relationship and society and everything actually works out, and why there is that chemistry and connection, is because there are those two opposing forces, right? If you just had one, you wouldn't have. And that's why when guys placate to the woman's prerogative, which is just for relationship, you get friend zoned. That's what the result is, right? So you're either a pickup artist or you're in the friend zone. That's kind of, again, I'm making it really, really extreme to illustrate the point, but it really does come down to that. You're either the tiger or you're the rabbit. There's no in between. And so you got to decide to be the tiger, and it's not a bad thing. Like I said, it can become a bad thing if you live your whole life like that, right? I always tell guys that I coach, I'm like, look, this is the hedonistic treadmill, right? You're never going to get enough. You might say, oh, I just want a hotter girl. Okay, you'll get that. And then you'll be like, oh, I just want a threesome. Okay, you'll get that. And then whatever you come up with, you're going to come up with one more and one more and one more forever. And if you're trying to get your validation from it, because you're like, well, because you'll pick up 3 girls, whatever, and you'll be like, oh, yeah, I don't know, maybe I just got lucky. So you go out there again and you do it again. You do it 50 times, and there's still going to be a nagging doubt inside of you that maybe I still got lucky. So you have to get off of this treadmill at some point. You have to quit doing it because it's not good for you. But you do need to learn the skill, right? And then ultimately, even when you do get into a long-term relationship with a woman, you have to be driving for the sexual part of it, and she has to be driving for the commitment. Like, the woman should always ask for the commitment. If you are, as a man, are looking for commitment from a woman, you're going to decrease her desire.
Yeah, I think what some of us do, maybe we were taught it's a good way of being, is to not, like, you're like, obviously I'm a tiger, but it's okay. Like, I don't actually care that much today.
Right.
Because actually, that's how I've gone into these things.
Right.
I'm like, okay, you are attractive, but also, like, I know what an orgasm feels like. I'm not that desperate, actually. Like, I kind of want it to be easy and seamless.
Right.
I don't go into it being like, like, this is me. I have to be a tiger. I don't go into it like that because no one told me I should. I felt like I should be polite and let it happen naturally. But you're kind of an opposing mindset where you're saying
you make it feel like it happened naturally, because it still does happen naturally. Being the tiger, like the tiger naturally kills his prey, right? It's like the tiger naturally toys with the the animal, and and he naturally does that. That's his game. That's the tiger's game, right? So it's where it comes from is it's this insecurity. Like, a lot of guys are afraid of showing their claws. Right, it's just like that. What is that movie?
Oh, Swingers.
Yeah, Swingers. Yeah, the line in Swingers where it's like, you're a bear. It's like,
yeah, exactly.
It's like
too many Gen Z people. They probably don't know that movie, but it's fire.
Yeah, and the line that he says in that movie is so great, because this is exactly it. Is he's like, I don't want you to be that guy in the PG-13 movie that everyone hopes is gonna make it. I want you to be the guy in the rated R movie that you're not sure if you like.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
That line sticks out so much in my head because it is so true. And that's what it is. It's not that, like, it's not being desperate and needy for sex, like, oh, let's have sex, right? It's like you're edgy. Like you're seducing the woman to make her want to have the sex. That's the thing. It's like, because what you're trying to do, and again, it's two people, or the masculine and feminine, battling. The masculine wants to create enough sexual desire in the woman where she overrides her default programming of make him wait. Like, I'm not that kind of girl, right? And how many times have you heard that? Oh, we're not having sex tonight. Oh yeah, no, we're not having sex tonight, right? But or I'm not that kind of girl. Yeah, no, you're not that kind of girl. No, right? The masculine wants to override that, right, by creating such a high desire in the woman that she's like, no, I'm not supposed to sleep with the guy on the first date, but I'm going to sleep with this guy on the first date, right? And the feminine, at the same time, wants to override the masculine. The masculine is like, I just want to fuck this girl and get out of here, right? And the feminine is trying to get the guy to show so much interest and investment in her that he's like, oh, I think I might kind of like this girl. Like, like, dude, you like this girl? You don't want to just fuck this girl? It's like, the feminine is trying to bring out that element, where the guy's like, I think I love her, and so you have to play into those. You have to be the tiger, because if you're already the guy that's in the friend zone, that's like you meet a girl and you're like, oh, I think I love her. It's like, oh, okay, well, that was a fun game. Yeah, it's like having sex, and coming immediately. It's like, all right, well, I guess it's over. It's like the woman doesn't enjoy that. Same thing. So it's a game, and you have to treat it as a game, and that's why it's called a game.
I like this model you've created, where you almost turn the chapters of your life into conquering one of the three great insecurities of a man. But how do you know when one is good enough, it's done, and it's maybe you're good to go to the next thing, or to make it a strong season of the next thing? Because you often find many of these endeavors, they take years. I don't know. I haven't done the pickup thing, so maybe not that. But like a physique, I would say like a great physique takes a handful of years at least, right. Even 2 years, which is what I've done. It's actually not enough, like for it to be, I would say, a truly spectacular result. Right. And with money, also with most people, right, you could get really far with money, I would say, in 2 to 3 years for sure. Yeah. It's like you said with the hedonic treadmill. You have to know when to stop. Yeah. You have to say when something is good enough for you to be able to focus on other things. How do you know when to say, okay, this is good enough right now? Yeah. Because I have that doubt as well. Yeah. Like, should I move on to my pickup phase? Because I really would love to just put in another year on the physique and maybe figure out money even more, because I don't feel like I own multiple properties or something like that. Right.
Well, I mean, in one aspect, you're never done, right? But the other thing, I think, I like to look at things through different lenses, just like a different camera lens. You look at a different camera lens, it looks like a totally different picture, right? Yep. Something looks bigger in the background or smaller in the background based on the camera lens. And so I think you can look at life through different. And the reason why I use that analogy is because if you don't use that analogy, then things are right or wrong. Is a 35 millimeter camera lens right? Is a 50 millimeter right? An 80 millimeter? No, they're just different. There's not a right or wrong to it. It's not, oh, you're seeing things wrong or right. So the lens that I would say that's really valuable to look at this is that it's not, none of these things are done for the external. It's all about the internal. Because it doesn't matter, and I've gone through this myself in life, is that someone can tell you, they can be like, Nikhil, dude, you're so successful. In fact, people walk up to you on the street and they're like, dude, it's Captain Sinbad, right? Mm-hmm. Right? And it's like, you could be having a bad day, and that you have not done the things you're supposed to be doing, and that person can think you're God, but it doesn't matter to you. Like, I mean, it might make you happy for a minute, but it might even make you feel worse about yourself, right? Because it's none of this stuff is for the external. Like, so the whole point of making money and getting to the point of being a self-made man has nothing to do with having cars and yachts and financial independence. It has to do with the feeling that you get yourself. So you're done when you've filled that feeling, when you believe it truly, when you don't have that insecurity anymore because you don't have that fear anymore. The same thing on the fitness side, right? It's like, why are you doing this? Like, why are you going on this fitness journey? Well, you think it's to look good for women. That's what everyone starts, no matter what what they say. But what you find is that at some point you transcend that, and you reach this point where you're like, I put in all this work. Like, I am the man who can do this. Like, I have the discipline. I have the ability to endure this pain. And that's what makes me great. And then once you have that, then you've done it, right? For me, for example, when I ran I ran an ultra marathon, right? I ran like a 50-mile race and 100K race. At that point, when I had trained to that point and run that race, I was like, all right, I've proven what I need to prove to myself, right? I can keep on doing this, and I could do it if I enjoy doing it, and that's fine, or if I want to achieve different things. But I have proven what I need to for myself, right? And it's the same thing again with the pickup. Like, you have to get to a point where you're like, all right, I can get girls. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, some girls find me attractive. It's fine. I have the ability to do it. I don't need to prove it every single day. I've done it. Good. And now I can move on to greater things in life. Because I have this theory that I call it the base motives, right? So the theory is that you cannot be altruistic until you deal with your base motive. It's kind of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? So it's like we all start off with a motivation that is a poor motivation, right? So for example, it might be because we want to prove other people wrong, or we want to make our dad love us, or whatever it is, or respect us, or this girl broke my heart, so I'm going to become jacked. It's like these are stupid, right? They're base motives. They're not good reasons for doing things. However, you can't get to the higher levels of more altruistic motives until you fulfill those base. So if you're going to do something because of revenge, then fucking do it. So, get it out of your system. It's not going to make you happy, but you have to find out that it won't make you happy, and no one can tell you. If you're doing it in order to feel loved by your parents, then go and do the thing, and then realize that doesn't matter, so that you can move on. But eventually you'll hit the point where you can actually be altruistic, and you can start doing things for higher reasons. But you can't do it unless you have to kind of go to your carnal nature first and get that taken care of, and no one can do it for you, and no one can tell you. Like, I can tell you this, but it won't make you transcend that. Like, you will have to experience it yourself.
I actually feel as if maybe I haven't conquered any of the three insecurities. I just have put a dent into the first two, right, for sure. But I wouldn't say I'm like, I have that self-satisfaction from physique point of view. Sometimes, depending on the lighting and, occasionally right, I really feel myself. But most of the time I'm like, okay, I'm like, a year from now is how I feel. There have even been times where I thought like, dude, John, you give great advice, but I think it's not worth for me to continue working with you because for some reason, I'm not able to execute on what you say very fast. And I don't really know if this is in the cards for me. And then in those, handful of times I've said something like that, you're like, well, you're probably like 4 to 6 months of coaching with me away from having your first $100,000 month. Right. You actually would said that to me. Yeah. I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah. Dude,
I actually had to call you back up because you canceled coaching, and I was like, dude, I'm not letting you cancel coaching. Like, this is a stupid decision. Because,
I was like, it was one of those things where I was like, dude,
I've never called someone into because normally people cancel coaching. I'm like, all right, it's fine. It's like, but I was like, no, there's no way you're not gonna do this.
And I actually just started to believe you. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. You're like, it's stupid. I will make you this much money. And I was like, oh. The unfortunate truth is I don't feel as if I've arrived at any of the three markers. And I sort of feel a little bit old for where I'm at. I feel as if, dude, you could have done at least one of these things all the way through: the physique, the money, or even the dating thing. Some guys just get that done from age 20 to 24. Right. It's kind of amazing, like it's, yeah. So, I mean, what would you say to someone who's like, especially someone who's crossed 30? For some people, that's like a big thing. Like, I should have had so much more figured out by 30 years old. Do you think it's too late for a 30-year-old, or do you think like certain stuff should have been done by now, or is there a way forward?
I mean, okay, so I didn't really start on this path really until like even the financial one. I mean, really until about 28, honestly. Right. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I bought my first real estate property when I was 19. I kind of lucked into that. And then I started buying properties after that. But I wasn't really like building a business and becoming financially free on my own, like self-made man. Like, even if I bought all the real estate and had retired from the real estate, I would still not have considered myself a self-made man because I hadn't gone out and built my own business. So I would say, though, that the issue is that these are the rites of passage for a man. And normally in older cultures, this would have happened when you're 14 or 15 years old, they would have given you some a strange plant to eat, right? The shaman would have given you that. He would have given you a spear and be like, all right, you're going to go out into the jungle for 3 days and you got to come back with a lion, right? It's like, and you're high. Good job. Good luck, right? You're going to see all kinds of crazy shit. Yeah. But and a lot of them would die, honestly, right? It was some serious shit. Like you could die, like, and you might die, but you come back, you're going to be a man. Right. And so it's we don't have that anymore. Right. So we sort of have to self-initiate that process. And most boys never become men in society today. But when they do, I find that it's in their 30s. For me, that's when that process really came. And again, I had to self-initiate, and we almost awaken into it. A lot of times it comes through pickup and through game, because guys are like, oh, I need to get girls. So then they go down that path, and then they start reading books, and then they learn about finances, and however it ends up happening. But you have to self-initiate that process. And so I don't think you're too late. I think you're right on time.
I'm right on time.
Yeah. And I also think you don't give yourself enough credit, because if I'm honest with myself, right, do I feel completely 100% confident in finances, or do I ever have any kind of doubts in that area? I do have doubts. Do I ever have some kind of doubts in the physical realm? Yeah, for sure. But I know that I can do it, right? And I have enough evidence that shows that I've done it in the past, reference experience, right? And I would say you have the same, right? I mean, you've created this YouTube channel, you've created this business, you've quit your job, right? I remember when we were talking about quitting your job, right? And you quit your job and you made it, and you've made it on your own, and you have not only made it on your own, but supported other people that the income that you were making from a business that you created allowed them to live. And that's what they did for a job. So yeah, you maybe you don't have a bunch of houses, and maybe you're not completely financially free, and your net worth isn't whatever, but you know that you have the ability to do it. The same thing with fitness, right? Because I saw you running up those trails, and like, you've got it. You've proven that you've got it. You've run marathons, right? You've trained to that point. Yeah, maybe you don't have the best physique in the world, or the physique that you want to have, but you know that the capability is within you. And again, I can't speak for the violence part of that, but if that's also something that can be conquered. If I don't know how much you've trained or sparred or whatnot in that area, but
the fighting, that whole aspect of things is interesting. I think I have conquered that a good amount. Yeah. It's just, it hasn't exclusively manifested through fighting. I've taken 2.5 years now worth of pad work, boxing training. Right. So I work the pads, but even that psychologically does affect you, even if it's only a simulated situation. It has a slight impact.
Because you're getting hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to feel what it feels like.
Yeah,
to
you're
get
still
hit.
dodging punches, and you still take a hit here and there. Nothing crazy though, not like an actual sparring session. But then even learning gun training and stuff, that had an impact on me psychologically. There's a strange aspect to gun training. To be safe, you have to lean forward, actually. With a lot of weaponry, like longer guns, you have to put your energy forward, and you have to be precise with your fingers, because you toggle the safety on and off pretty consistently, depending on what's happening. So if the muzzle's in the air, the safety's on. If you're actually putting it on a target, in that swipe down, real John Wick style, you turn the safety off as you put it on the target. And it creates this whole psychological aspect to you where you start thinking more lean forward, aggressive. And it actually makes you more confident, even if you don't have a gun on you, oddly enough. Knowing you can attack, strike with a gun has that effect, which I didn't expect. I'm not like this badass dude. I just learned guns for a month. And so, and then motorcycling and all this, I don't consider myself a daring person. People have different ideas that is their signature idea. Right. I didn't realize this, but for me, this idea of yours, the 3 insecurities of a man, on the other side of that, the 3 masteries of a man, is kind of who you are to me.
I didn't even, you just made me aware of that. So I'm damn, I've been searching for this for a long time, and there it is. Right?
It's too big of a thing.
It is too big.
And it's a very, I haven't heard it specifically said this way
right.
from anyone else.
It ties together everything that I'm doing, and I can't believe I didn't see it before. Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, it's my most popular video on YouTube.
Yeah.
Man, I feel like an idiot now.
Yeah. I think the nature of whatever you sell to people, whatever, is your new business model should be that. I think it should be the 3 insecurities plus shaman initiation stuff.
Right, exactly,
all lined up together.
Yeah.
Which does bring me to another question. It seems like you do feel like you've gone through you've gone through the 3 trials of man, and you're kind of on the other side of that. How does it feel to be in that space? Like, what does it feel like to kind of feel confident about all 3 of the big legs of the male experience?
It actually feels scary as fuck.
Really?
Right. Yeah. Because where do you go? What do you do? Are you just self-deluding yourself? Like, I know I'm not, but it's like you have a lot of questions about, well, what do you do now? Because, when I started to realize this, I was like, well, okay, now I have to maintain this thing. And it's like, well, you can't maintain this thing forever. I mean, you're going to get old. So it's like, that can't be the answer. And then it's like, well, okay, I need to run. I need to go run more ultra marathons, right? It's like, because that's the thing. That's what Bulldog mindset is. That's what makes, and it's like, no, that's not going to, it doesn't have the same effect because you've already crossed that finish line. Like, yeah, you can cross more finish lines, but you've already done that, right? And then, with the picking up women and stuff like that, that was, I found the woman and got married. And so, it's like you can't really, it's almost like these are things that you can start to base your identity in. And your identity cannot be anything that can be taken from you, right? And it's like, and it's not anything that you've done. It's who you are. It transcends that thing. So it's kind of a scary place because I've been trying to figure out, well, what do I do? Right. Just like we were just talking about, it's like, what is the thing that I do now at this point? Like because if you're not growing, you're dying. I truly believe if you're not making some kind of forward progress or advancement in life, then you're going to be, that's a formula for depression. You're going to be depressed and unmotivated, and you're going to feel like crap. And so I've been actually in that zone for a while where I'm like, man, I've just been feeling this sense of just depression and just what do I do now? And I'm only starting to kind of figure it out, right? And
when did you first come up with this theory of the 3 trials of man? When did you put that together?
I'm trying to think when I first came up with that. I think it must have been like 5 or 6 years ago. I remember doing a video when I was talking, because where it came from was just, and almost everything that I put out there comes from just deep self-examination within myself, right?
Yeah.
If I'm truly brutally honest with myself, I had to face those things. I was like, I'm afraid of violent. Like, I watch a movie and I see Braveheart, or I see guys going into battle and fighting with their axes, and I'm like, would I run? Like, would I actually do that? Or Saving Private Ryan, and they have to, on the beaches and everyone's dying. It's like, would I just be running back into the ocean? Like, would that be me, right? I thought about those things, and I'm like, I have not confronted that at that point. And so I was like, okay, well, I need to confront that. The same thing with women, especially, right? As I talked about on the beach, but yeah, that's where it came from. It was just deeply examining my own self and knowing that we're all pretty similar. And
by the time you did that examination, had you already passed the 3 trials?
I think I was in the process of doing that. I think it sort of, it sort of came to me around the same time as I was going through it. And that's where, because when I was going through those trials, especially the female side of it and the fitness side of it, I was having to self-examine in order to really get through it, because you have to be honest with yourself. And most people, I would say the biggest tripping stone or that stumbling block that most men run into is they're dishonest. They lie. They lie to other people and they lie to themselves because they can't face the actual truth. And the thing is, it's like, if I want to go to New Jersey from here, we're in San Diego. Well, if I ask you for directions to New Jersey, you're going to say, well, where are you right now? And if I say San Diego, then you can give me directions. Or if Google Maps, if I ask Google Maps, it has to know where you're starting. Mm-hmm. If you say you're starting in Texas, those directions aren't going to make any fucking sense at all, right? And that's what happens with a lot of people. They self-deceive, and I was doing it myself. That's why when I finally looked in the mirror and truly said, "Look, John, it doesn't matter. This is where you are right now. This is the honest truth." That's when I started to grow.
Yeah. So at some point, you acknowledge that some of these domains, like, hey, I'm actually actively not good at this.
Yeah.
And just telling yourself, like, damn, I'm not. It's actually kind of an exciting feeling because it's kind of fun to go through a transformation. It's
right.
It's fun to have a story arc in front of you.
Oh yeah.
We should. In fact, a lot of guys, they look at their current situation, and you get maybe. You thought something would happen by a certain age. You have these expectations of the man you'd become when you were a kid, maybe. Yeah. And on some level, you sort of feel like, damn, like I haven't lived up to that. I'm already 30, whatever you thoughts you might have. I haven't lived up to that superhero version of what that child thought he would be. Right. But you don't have to feel bad about it necessarily. You can also see it as, okay, which trial do you want to take on right now?
Right.
And there you go. Look at you. Lucky you. You're able-bodied, and you get to have a story arc in front of you, as if you choose to interpret it that way. Right. It's really funny. Just yesterday, I was having a group coaching call for my YouTube coaching program, and one of our guys who's been with me for a year now, like I've seen him develop so much over this last year. His name's Isa. He's actually got a great channel, Isa Ibrahim, and basically, in order to pursue YouTube and pursue having his own business, he had quit his job, and he had a certain number of savings. I hope he's okay with me saying this. He has a certain amount of money that he had put away to like basically pursue things on his own. And in a year, he burned through most of his savings. In fact, one of my videographers has pretty much the same story. So you spend some money on a coaching program. He signed up for my coaching program, Kino Body, a few others. He like kind of put that money into investing in himself, and then he genuinely did the work, like of investing in himself. And as a result, he gained like 12, I don't know, I think he's got like 18K subs now or something like that. And he gained subs from nothing to 18K in like a reliable audience, like a loyal, reliable audience. And he like got a lot fitter once he quit his job. He prioritized fitness as well. So he went from like 20 to 14% body fat, and it's like pretty fit now as well. And he's telling me, he's like, I feel like kind of a loser. Like I feel as if I sort of messed up my life, and I need to, because I ran through so much money, and I feel like I took a step backwards. And I want to be able to propose to my girlfriend at some point. I'm not really fully where I thought I would be. And I was like, Isa, you sound crazy to me.
Right.
Like, just know that I'm a few years older than you. Yeah. So it's so easy for me to know exactly where you're at in life, and for me to interpret it. Yeah. And I'll be like, dude, if you had to give yourself a coaching call right now, and some guy looked at your last year, including the savings you burned through, why would that guy think you absolutely crushed it? That's what I asked him. I was like, tell me why you crushed it this last year, including spending the money, which you did the right thing by spending it, because you learned so much as a result of it. It was a cheap price to pay for everything you learned this last year. And so then he's like, okay, well, I grew my YouTube channel. And I was like, and how much money did you make in your biggest month on YouTube? And I stole some of your lines. He was like around $2,000. I'm like, okay, the hardest part is making the first $500, the first $2,000, which John and I were on a run. He told me that the other day. I thought it was a good line. The hardest part isn't making $10,000 a month or $20,000 in a month. Right. It's that first 1K is the hardest part. And he did that. Yeah. I was like, you won in so many ways. Yeah. All of this to say, you sort of don't know how well you're crushing the current trial you're in until the trial's almost over or you're in that next season. But if next season John saw you right now, what trial would he say you're going through, and why are you conquering it? I mean, it would be the existential crisis, John, right? I just got my haircut, and everyone's like, it's old John back, but it's not. It's not. Yeah. It's the new John, rebirthed, right? Yeah. And so, I suppose that would be this is the era of the artist. This is the era of the shaman. This is the era of stopping worrying about doing things for money, of not needing to prove anything, but doing the thing for the thing. That's what it is. And do you think that's the final stage for everyone? Like every man has that artist inside of him? I think because, ultimately my biggest value in life, the thing that I was seeking, is freedom. Right. And when we say freedom, most people think of freedom in terms of
what other people prevent them from doing, right? I want to have money so I can have freedom, and but freedom in the true sense is the ability to not care what other people think, to be free to express yourself in your highest form. That's what true freedom is. Freedom is to be able to go out and walk on the street and start singing if you want to. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter, right? Like, that's why all of these things really give you freedom, right? It's like the financial side of it. It gives you freedom because you don't have to worry about money. You can make money. The violence side of it. It gives you freedom because you can take care of yourself. You know that you're going to be okay, right? The women side of it gives you that freedom to express yourself, to conquer those fears, and to be able to be yourself. So I think that ultimately the path is freedom. That's what everyone wants. That's what men, or the masculine, wants, freedom. That's truly is. So, So as you, and the thing that holds you back from freedom more than anything else is yourself. It is your own, because my definition of freedom is your ability to execute your will upon the world. And the more that you're able to execute what's up in here on the world, the more free you are. And so what's holding you back in most cases is it's not someone else. No one else stopped you from getting a six-pack. You did that, right? It's like, no one stopped you from talking to the girl. You're not going to get me to, people use that as an excuse. No, you stopped yourself from doing it because you're afraid, right? Mm-hmm. So you are inhibiting your own freedom. And so the whole point is to actualize yourself to the point where you have the ultimate freedom of expression, where if you think a thought in your head, your will can carry that out and make that happen in your reality.
It is pretty goofy how it doesn't seem intuitive before you've done it, but proving to yourself that you can do certain things is it is a source of freedom, actually. Yeah. It was so goofy the day I did it. It felt so strange, but because, and I've said this story before, but our marathon got canceled, and it got canceled due to like a heat wave. Right. And me and my buddy Nathan, we just said, it's so stupid. Why would we run this? It's already canceled. Like, it's not going to be the same. Yeah. It's not going to be the same experience as like running an actual marathon. But it was like this sick, twisted idea, like thought he had. Like, he started saying it like, he's like, we should run it anyway. Yeah. And I thought it was like, that makes no sense. Like, there's no reward for me in doing that, right. Like, when I was going to run the actual marathon, it was going to be like a video, an ending to my video. Yeah. And then for some reason we did it anyway, and that was all the more reason why it's kind of a useless thing that we did, if you really think about it. Like, it accomplished nothing transactionally. Right. And in fact, it set me back because then I had to like recover a lot, like, for the rest of the day and the following day as well. But what it gave me was just the sense of freedom. It made me think, oh, okay, I can totally, I have so much grit and stamina that I can probably get through so much. It'd take a lot to put me out of the game in something, just because if something is a result of stamina and endurance, I have the capacity to endure to a pretty solid degree. Yeah, exactly. And learning that, it makes you feel safe.
The reality of the situation is that everything we do is useless. That nothing, like making money, it's really, it doesn't really have a purpose. There's like, I mean, all you really need to do, we were talking about this the other day too, is like the happiest you'll ever be in life is having a good conversation with some close friends and drinking some beers and having some pizza, right? Although I don't partake in alcohol anymore, but whatever, having a Pepsi, whatever, having a good time, right? And so it's like all of this other stuff is extraneous. Right? You think about it and it's like, does it really matter if you make a lot of money? You don't really need to make a lot of money in order to live a good life, right? But it's the process of who you become in that process. The same thing with having a good physique. You don't, what is that really? Or running an arbitrary distance, 26.2 miles makes a marathon. Why does that matter? Why does it matter that, or whatever pace that you run it? What does that matter? It only matters because you've created meaning to something that's meaningless, right? You can almost take a nihilistic view to life and say nothing. There's no meaning in life, and I would agree. You create the meaning in life, right? That's what we do, is we create the meaning, but it is for our evolution. That's how we grow and become, the same thing with women, right? You could say, oh, I bagged a hot woman, a 10 out of 10. Well, when you turn the lights off and, it doesn't really make much of a difference, does it? Right. It's like, or she's going to get old and she's not going to be attractive, or, It's just, what's the difference between that and jerking off, like there's really like mechanically there's not much of a difference. You know what I'm saying? Like the same signal is going to go into your brain. So, we have created meaning from these things, but we have given them meaning in order so that we can play this game. And the purpose of playing this game is not to win the game. It's to build up the level of the character that we're playing in the game, right? And everyone's trying to win the game, and that you can't win the game. There's no point. And if you won the game, you would be extremely disappointed, and your life would feel completely meaningless and shallow and hollow. But as you level up, that's what the whole experience. And that's why when you ran that marathon, it wasn't about, who cares if someone gives you a medal? It doesn't matter. It's like you gave yourself a medal. Like, you know that you have done this thing, and that's what it's all about. And we lose track of all of that, in the process of doing all these things. But realistically, we don't need to do any of these things. It's kind of silly, all the stuff that we do. But the reason why we do it is because it creates a meaning, and that meaning is what allows us to grow.
I guess this is all to say freedom is only found through action, because there's no worse feeling for the handful of video games that I've played, which is really just Pokemon and Legend of Zelda.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't grow up on much, actually. But what some of the worst, most nihilistic days of my life have been at the end map of a Zelda game or Pokemon game. Because you really, as a kid, you do put in like hundreds of hours into some of these games sometimes, and you're like trying to figure out every puzzle. And it's because, I don't know, when I was like 14, I didn't have that much going on, or whenever, middle school. Right. So I found a lot of meaning through these video games. And when I would get to the end of something, it just felt awful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so feeling awful, that doesn't sound like freedom in that sense. Like, what is freedom then? Because you could be in your position where you've won money, fitness, and then like married the person that you thought was like the crazy hottest person, like whatever, the person you like the most.
Yeah.
You could win the game. But if you won the game, then you lost the game, because if the game's over, then you're bored, or that nihilism kicks again. So it's only in action, and only the knowingly arbitrary, but you have fun with that sense of arbitrary anyway, sense of pursuit. Does the whole thing become fun again? Like then suddenly, like before every single podcast I've ever done, I think it's the podcast especially. I'm just like really worried about technical every time.
Oh yeah,
I am.
Yeah.
I'm just like nervous.
Right.
So before today, I was like, "Fuck, man, John's gonna be here at 3, and I just can't do this anymore." I was like, "This is gonna be fucking awful. Like, I'm not even a good host. Like, does anyone even care?" Really, it happens, but I know it happens with almost every video shoot.
Yeah.
And honestly, even any B-roll shoot, anything I do. And then it's probably around 20 minutes into doing it, I was like, "This is great. I love this."
Exactly.
And then while it's happening, I'm like, the podcast season this year is going to be 20 episodes, 20 cities. I'm like listening to you and putting together this master plan.
Right.
It just keeps coming and going. I guess the last thing I want to, close the conversation with you on is, if you had to put together an action plan or an itinerary, someone who really, maybe they're at a 5 out of 10 in terms of finance, 4 or 5 out of 10 in terms of like physique and health and like their progression with that, maybe 2 to 3 out of 10 with women. Really, they've just matched on dating apps and stuff, but they just feel overwhelmed by the journey ahead. It's like sometimes you don't know what to do, what to pursue, what to do, what day, and then you don't even know like what curriculum to put yourself on to get through some of these trials. It just feels like this onslaught of life before you, rather than a trial that you can take on easily. If I'm confused about where I'm at, what to pursue, what order, and even in my belief to be able to get through some of these things, like I doubt my ability to get through it. Just what would you say? What would a coaching call with John look like for someone who has that, he's in that place with all 3 trials?
It's pretty broad, but I'll try. So what immediately comes to mind is, like, have you ever read a really good book or watched a really good movie and you wish you could watch it or read it for the first time again?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. And you're so excited to share it with someone else because you're like, I'm so jealous. Like, I wish I could experience what they're experiencing right now, like watching it for the first time or reading it for the first time. Right. Mm-hmm. That's the journey that you're on right now. That's me. I'm like, in fact, that was what first, when I saw your videos, I was like, I recognize this guy, right? I was like, man, I'm so jealous. I wish I could be discovering these things, reading these books for the first time, discovering my physique for the first time, discovering like that I can conquer these fears with women for the first time, because those were the most exciting times of my life. Not to say that there's not going to be whatever the next journey that I'm on right now. At some point, I'll look back at that. In fact, this advice could be given to myself right now, is to remember that like where you're at right now is epic. Like you are going to be creating this story that you wish that someday you're going to wish that you could relive again. And I know it because I'm there and I'm like, I wish I could do that again. I wish I could first be going through these things again, conquering these fears, improving myself and discovering all these things about life. And so the thing about it is two things I'll say is number one, most important, is see this as a not just an opportunity but an honor that you have, that you have this ability to go and do this thing. Like you're about to embark upon a quest that is going to be a fabulous quest, right? It's going to be full of adventure and heartbreak and trials, but that's what makes it so great, just like a great movie or a great book. Right. And the second thing I would say is just as a more practical piece of advice, because it's very hard to give advice to a very generic, set of like,
I trapped you.
But I would say this is that the compass for your life right now needs to be fear and pain. That's the direction. If you want to know what direction you need to go, you already know it. It's going to be different for every man. I mean, ultimately, they're going to lead to the same destination, but the path you take is going to be different. But I can guarantee you that your internal compass is going to be fear and pain. You should be moving in that direction. If something scares you, that tells you that is the direction you need to go. And if something's painful, that's the direction that you need to go, because that is where growth is. Growth is always on the other side of fear and pain. And that is ultimately what you're trying to do. Like we just said in this whole podcast, everything's pointless. What's the point? Why make money? Why get girls? Why do all this stuff? You can just have a couple of beers with some friends and eat some pizza and be happy. You're doing this in order to grow, right? And so if you want to grow, fear and pain is the compass.
Wow. What a great reframe, and perhaps the perfect way to end the episode. It's exciting. Most of us, we actually have an amazing quest that we can go on. And even I think I needed to hear it. You actually got me hyped a little bit. Like
I got myself hyped.
You hyped yourself, right?
Yeah, like, what am I doing here?
John and I have a very cool vibe, together. It's. I'm really glad I took this journey because it just hits different. You get a totally different feel for a person in real life as opposed to online. So I want to thank you for joining me in this conversation. You can find the podcast, which has now been retitled A Life in Momentum, everywhere podcasts are found. We'd been a little behind in updating it, but now everything should be up. And with that being said, for those of us who are willing to go on the quest and put in fear and pain towards our results, to us I say greatness is coming. We'll catch you next time.